Top Gun Maverick is directed by Joseph Kosinski and stars Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly, Miles Teller, and among others. And in this story, it deals with Pete Maverick Mitchell, who is still in the Navy, and he's also been a captain over the years for so long, ever since the events of the first Top Gun. And basically, he gets an opportunity to essentially train a new series of recruits that are on the Naval Air Base, and he essentially has to train them in order to get ready for this mission that's a priority for them to go into combat, along with him also confronting his past that happened in the first movie. Now, I won't go into detail, but if you've seen the first film, you pretty much know where the story is essentially going. And along the way, he also tries to bond with not only Jennifer Connelly's character that he knew from a previous time, but also with Miles Teller's character, who has a connection to a character from the first film. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this is a film that I wasn't really quite as hyped like I would be for a while, because it actually took me a long time before I actually got a chance to finally watch the first Top Gun, and I did actually post a written review of it for those of you who are interested in. I'll post a link of it here in the description, but I finally got a chance to watch it and prepare for this movie. And I gotta admit that I was really surprised I missed it over the years, because I found myself really enjoying the first Top Gun a lot. And, it definitely has some stuff that's, cheesy that can be, cliche and kind of, cheesy at times. But I still highly enjoy the first one a lot. And it's definitely holds it a lot with not only the great action scenes that were shot by Tony Scott, may he rest in peace, but also just it had a lot more layers to it that I was surprised they put in, that also enhances the story with this one, because there was a lot going on with Maverick's character in the first movie, and you also got to deal with some of the stuff that was going on with him and his rivalry that was going on with Iceman, played by Val Kilmer and all that. And so this first film, while it's not perfect, I still highly enjoy it a lot. And with this one, after finally upon seeing the film and with all the countless delays that came out, I gotta say, this is probably one of the best sequels that I've seen to a movie for a long time, that as far as doing legacy sequels. Like, this movie was top-notch material that I really enjoyed. And we've seen a lot of these movies that deal with a lot of the following the events of older films and stuff and doing legacy sequels, especially, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, Blade Runner 2049, all those, and even recently with Scream 5 and all that. And while I do, and there are some really great ones that I really do enjoy, especially some of those that I mentioned, it was good to also see that there's movies like this that not only do itself as a sequel to a movie for a long time, but also respects it in that regard, because it also is able to enhance things to do it in a modern setting. And so I gotta admit that this is probably one of the best films of the year for me. So to get my pros out of the way, I really love the cast in this. I think this might be one of Tom Cruise's best performances that he's done in a long time. Like, as far as an emotional level, and also his usual carrying the action scenes with his stunts and everything. And the rest of the cast and the character arc that it plays with Maverick going through this, where he's having to essentially learn to teach the recruits and everything like that, and also bonding in with him and Rooster, played by Miles Teller, I thought was really top-notch material. And it really does have some really emotional payoffs in the end, especially when it gets to our second act, when things go down, and it really puts Maverick in the kind of position where he has to go where the plot actually ends up going in the third act. And so that was really fantastic the way they pulled that off. And I got to also admit that there's a key sequence that involves with him reuniting with Iceman in this that I thought was not only great to see Val Kilmer again, but it also really led a great pivotal impact in the plot, the way it goes along with it. And so I thought that was great. And I also really enjoyed Cruise's chemistry with Jennifer Connelly in this. I thought they made a really great pair, and I thought some of the funny moments they have, especially at the beginning, I thought were pretty endearing. And also, one of the other things I got to appreciate is some of the nods they do with the original film in this, that they are able to make reference on, but they also were able to they were able to flip certain things to kind of push along the story a lot better, and even improve on some aspects with the original movie that I really enjoyed as well. And it really, and it definitely put a lot of great suspenseful moments that work, especially with where you're thinking it's going to go one direction, but then it actually turned out to be something else. And I like the way it did a 180 on you at times. Also really enjoyed the rest of the cast, and I was a little worried at first because when they brought in the newer, younger recruits, it kind of gave me flashbacks to looking movies like The Expendables 3, and even like a couple years ago when we had Bad Boys for Life, where they're trying to take in more younger teams that are trying to help the old teams. And so when that idea comes to mind, it's like it kind of worries me because it depends on how, if they're going to either pull off it being, flowing with the original team, or if they're going to be basically or if they're flowing with the original members of the story, or if they're basically going to be annoying as fuck and not really getting into them. But I gotta admit, to the cast in this, the younger cast especially, I thought they were really fantastic, and they really blended well with their chemistry with not only Maverick but also with themselves at times. And one of the biggest standouts for me was Glenn Powell, who, funny enough, was in Expendables 3, and this I think was the better. He was in the better movie here, as he was able to really not only get some really funny lines at times, but also his character really felt a good purpose around with the rest of the characters. And then the rest of what can I say about the action? Joseph Kosinski has been proved himself to be a really great director with movies like Oblivion that he also starred Cruise in, and that's another film that I really wish I could have watched at IMAX, because that not only had great sequences that were set in the futuristic setting, but just the scope and the way that he puts himself into making the aerial sequences in this, I thought were fantastic. Because they were, from what I heard, was that they actually use real IMAX. They use IMAX cameras in the actual cockpits at times when they're going through various parts of the movie where they're doing the aerial sequences. And man, this is definitely something I can see that they put a lot of emphasis on, because them going with authenticity really showcases a lot of the great ways of how you do modern action films like this. And so I really think that Tony Scott would be proud with a movie like this had he still been alive. May he rest in peace. And it's a great way of not only getting the authenticity right, but it also showcases like a lot of the realistic setting that the movie is putting itself into, where these recruits that they're going through fucking hell in the training sequences, and I could see a lot of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes where they were having to really put them like they were basically going through a real life boot camp. And I think that while it is pretty, scary because Tom Cruise likes to stick to authenticity a lot, and it can be scary what he does at times in real life with the stunts. But I think that sticking to his ground with putting these actors into real life situations like this, I thought really paid off, and it really does great, especially toward the third act when we get into the actual mission that takes place, that it really does have a lot of great suspenseful moments and also really intenseful parts that really have me on the edge. And just seeing that at IMAX, and keep in mind, this is the first time I went to an IMAX theater by myself to watch something like this, it definitely paid off. And I couldn't recommend this movie enough, because there's just really little to no flaws I can really think of. And also hearing the score again from Harry, I forgot the guy's last name. They use the iconic theme that's from the original film, especially in the opening scene that they actually recreate from the original movie. But also they even include Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins in this again. And so you could definitely see them not only paying respect to the original film, but also doing its own thing too with exploring more of its story in this. And so I can't recommend this movie enough. And with that, I'm going to give Top Gun Maverick a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen Top Gun Maverick and also the first Top Gun, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.